Welcome to episode 24 of the Princeton Podcast with Mayor Mark Freda. In this episode, Mark sat down with Joyce Trotman-Jordan and Soorya Baliga, board members of Not in Our Town, Princeton, a multiracial, multi-faith group of individuals who stand together for racial justice and inclusive communities. Joyce and Soorya discuss their current events, including a series of continuing conversations on race and white privilege, as well as Not in Our Town Princeton's Unity Awards, recognizing students for their efforts to advance racial justice, equity, literacy, and address white supremacy in the Princeton schools and beyond. So without any further introduction, let's join our host, Mark Freda, and his guests, Joyce Trotman-Jordan and Soorya Baliga, for episode 24 of the Princeton Podcast.
So today we're joined by representatives from Not in Our Town, Princeton. So thank you very much for both of you being here. So why don't we start with, I think, an important question. What is Not in Our Town, Princeton? Soorya or Joyce, I'm not sure who's going to go first.
Soorya, why don't you go first?
Sure. So the way I describe Not in Our Town, Princeton, we have a mission statement, which you can look it up on our website. We'll talk about that a bit more later. But the way I describe us is that we're a racially diverse group of advocates who are really passionate about uprooting white supremacy, particularly in the greater Princeton area. So we have, most of our board members are Princetonian, and then we have a couple from Trenton and things like that. But we really just focused on grassroots, local activism to combat white supremacy.
Thank you, Joyce.
Excellent, Soorya. I look at Not in Our Town as a group of individuals who stand together for racial and social justice in the area of Princeton. It's multiracial and multi-faith. And when we talk about the history of Not in Our Town, you'll see why it started out that way.
Okay, thank you. So when was Not in Our Town formed?
All right, I'll take that one.
Okay.
Not in Our Town was formed between 1998 and 1999. So the main congregations in town involved were Universal, UUCP, Universal...
Unitarian, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Church Witherspoon and Nassau Presbyterian Church. And they were the foundation, and the congregants at all three of the churches were concerned about the injustices that they were probably just beginning to notice in Princeton. And so they got together and they decided to invite other congregations in. And they also named the group Not in Our Town after the incident that happened in Billings, Montana, incidences of bias against the Jewish community. So that's where it came from. So they started, that way. And it's been, oh my God, the work that Not in Our Town has done from the 90s until today, it's incredible.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if each of you could tell us, how did each of you get involved in the group?
Soorya, you go first.
Okay. So when I began working in racial justice work and in general social justice work to combat implicit bias and create more restorative justice practices at Princeton Public Schools, a lot of the youth activists that I was working with, a lot of them were involved in Not in Our Town, or they had received Unity Awards from Not in Our Town. And there was another thing where we have a June Continuing Conversations, which is one of our programs that we do every month, where students present their racial literacy transfer products, which is kind of their final project of the semester. And a lot of these activists that I was working with were presenting at Not in Our Town, getting awards from Not in Our Town, working with Not in Our Town. And it became clear to me that this organization is really central to the racial justice work in Princeton, and I knew I wanted to take part. So sort of my timeline has been that I became involved in Not in Our Town Princeton as a youth advisor in January of 2021. And then I've been a board member since May of this year, 2022.
Great. Joyce?
And Soorya is an excellent asset to our board.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, my story's a little different. So I retired from the West Windsor Plainsboro School District in 2014. And I just happened to be looking through the Trenton Times one day and noticed that there was going to be a meeting at the Princeton Library sponsored by Not in Our Town Princeton. And the topic was white privilege. Oh, did that catch my eye? Princeton talking about white privilege. I will attend that meeting. So up in the library, in a small room with a very large table, sat a group of individuals that I had no idea who they were. And I was astonished that people were willing to have open dialogue about the topic of white privilege. I can't begin. And that's the beginning of my journey here. Well, prior to that, my family came here, but that's a whole nother story. I will share this with you because I am a senior now. When my parents were here and my aunt was here, I would have to go uptown to my African-American community members in Princeton. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So my auntie lived down on John Street, and she would send me uptown on Nassau Street to go to the store to pick up something. And as a young child, I could not figure out why I was so uncomfortable. I felt so invisible and scared, and the feelings of, I guess, unconscious bias or racism was so prevalent during the 50s and 60s. I could actually remember breathing a sigh of relief once I would hit Witherspoon Street and turn down on either John or Lytle or Lee at Birch Avenue. I had a brother that lived there. So it was amazing, and I had no idea why I had those feelings. So they were tucked deep in my heart or in my memory. And when I saw Princeton was going to have this conversation about white privilege, I was coming from that mindset. But I was able to move beyond that, and I didn't stay in that place, but I could open my heart and begin to hear that people were really, really trying to struggle with this concept of racism and white privilege, and let's have an honest dialogue about it.
Great, thanks for sharing, both of you. Joyce, can you talk a little bit about the continuing conversation series? Where are those? When are those?
Those are usually the first Monday of every month. Okay, so I have to measure everything pre and post COVID now. My God. Pre-COVID, we would meet in person at the library. Magnificent opportunity for people to actually get together and have conversations. We would pick our topics for the year during one of our meetings, one of our committee meetings. And then we would find a speaker to address the topics that we had selected. And we can go more into that later on. Once we did that, and we would have a presenter, and then we'd break out into small group discussions. So that's the first Monday of every month. This year, we will be meeting on Tuesday, the 6th of September, the day after Labor Day. So that's usually the only time that it's not on a Monday, is if it's a holiday. But the topics are all pre-planned, and the good thing about Princeton is that we have lots and lots of resources. So we use the library, we use the university, we use whoever we can to make the connections, to find the speakers, to fit the topic. Online, it was pretty easy because we had people from all over the country. Now that hopefully, eventually, whenever we can, we'll go back into person and in-person sessions, and we'll figure out how we're going to manage that. But I look forward to all the people. I've made so many good friends here.
Well, it's much better when you're actually able to meet face-to-face.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
Most of those meetings are Still in the community room at the library?
Yes, they're at the community room at the library, and they usually start at 7, but then we have to kind of be out between 8:30 so that they can clean up the library and get ready for the next day.
All right, Joyce, another one for you.
Oh, okay.
I believe Not in Our Town hosts other events to help with their mission. Are there events coming up in the near future?
You know what? Can I just say, I strongly suggest everyone go to NIOTPrinceton.org. Our website is chocked full of events that will be taking place and information and resources. Soorya, what do you think?
Well, not all of the, I just want to give a disclaimer, not all of those events are ours.
Right.
Sometimes people think that all those events that are on our website are actually ours. And then it's like, no, give credit to other people. But yeah, we do all sorts of events in addition to continuing conversations as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, and by the way, we also meet maybe every 8 weeks with our superintendent, Dr. Kelly. Mm-hmm. So we have an education committee that also meets. So we do other things. We also attend like the civil rights meetings, commission, right. We attend, like town council, school board. So, yeah.
So you're plugged in. You're listening.
Plugged into the town, yes.
Good. Okay. All right, so for events where you do have guest speakers, how do you go about identifying those potential speakers?
As I said earlier, we have a lot of resources. The library is wonderful with recommendations, as well as the university. So we can pull from there. We have relationships with, definitely like the African American Studies Department. And whatever our topic is for that particular month, we can usually find someone in town that has a connection. So a lot of it is kind of like word of mouth, or we'll do some research on people who are familiar with whatever our topic is for that particular month.
Yeah, you are blessed to be in this area where there's so many people, so many experts, and so many people knowledgeable on so many different topics.
Exactly. So that's definitely a plus. So we do use, all of our resources here. I can remember we even did a collaboration with Hun School, and we had a speaker come in, I believe, from California.
Oh, wow.
I know. And we did a training and a workings with him at Hun. So it was pretty good. Yeah.
So, I recently attended, I'm not sure how recent, was that a couple months ago now? By now, it's got to be, the Unity Award ceremony. Can you explain what this is, how the awardees are selected? What's behind the curtain there?
Okay.
Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
So Unity Awards is this sort of long-standing tradition that Not in Our Town has had, where we're honoring members of the community, particularly students who are committed to racial justice work and making our town more inclusive in general. So I guess how awardees are selected, we have a Unity Awards committee, and they do amazing work. One of our board members, Wilma Solomon, does so much work for that, to prepare for the ceremony, I know. And so the way awardees are selected is it's grassroots, you're looking into the schools, and there have to be certain recommendations, right? So the more people know about Unity Awards, which this podcast will hopefully help with, the more people know about Unity Awards, the more particularly adults in the community will nominate students, and the more students will get recognized for the amazing work that they do. So definitely, if you know a student who is passionate about this work, you can definitely get in touch with us, and they might be able to get involved with us during the year too.
Oftentimes, Wilma Solomon, God bless her,
For real.
really, will contact the schools and ask counselors and administrators and or teachers to recommend, because they can see the students in their work in schools. And like Soorya said, even adults in the community, if you see or know of someone who's doing inclusive work, social justice work, anything involving helping and supporting other people, other members of our community, then definitely, like Soorya said, have them get in touch with us. And we can, share their name and, we can go from there. But we do ask for input from the schools, all of our schools here in town.
Right. Okay. So I was just going to say, so when you say all the schools, it doesn't have to be just the public schools. It's
Absolutely
the other schools
not.
also.
Right, all the schools.
Just have to be in Princeton, yeah.
Just have to be in Princeton.
Yeah. No, I just want to make sure we made that real clear to everybody listening, because I don't want to, you don't want to leave any potential candidates for awards
Absolutely not.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So I know you kind of mentioned the website already, but I was wondering, how else can I stay informed about the work that Not in Our Town does? I mean, is there...
Yeah, so our one of our communications people, Shelly Krause, she actually wanted me to mention that if you look at our website, niotprinceton.org/resources, we have all sorts of resources compiled. I don't think there really are resources, but you can find information about all sorts of topics through that particular page. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Shelly. We have got that covered. Mm-hmm. And in addition, you can subscribe to our mailing list, which you can also do through our website. And another thing, just a shout out to the Princeton Public Library, you can subscribe to their mailing list because we often partner with them on events. So if you see an event in collaboration with us, then you can, through that newsletter, sometimes that happens to me before I get a notification from the Not in Our Town newsletters. So that's just another way to get involved.
Mm-hmm. And also, we take donations. We're also, 501c3. And so we'll take donations. And there's a donation button that you can just hit on our website to make a monetary donation. And involve yourself with, as Soorya was saying, look at the resources. Definitely like reading lists. I didn't bring any of my books with me, but we also have recommendations for books. I can again remember having read Debbie Irving's book, Waking Up White, and we had like a small book club. So we'd also have topics around that, and meet not only with continuing conversations, but also with book clubs. And that's something that, people can begin to do on their own too. So look at the resources. The website is just incredible. And that's probably the easiest way to stay in touch. And definitely when we have our continuing conversations, even online, participate there or hopefully at some point in person too.
So getting back to the fact that you're a nonprofit. So do you have a board, and how big's the board, or how do people, if you're interested in the board, just more about that?
We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We do have a board of trustees. Mm-hmm. I would say, how many people?
Ooh, I know, I was thinking about that.
Maybe 15 or something.
I think.
Roughly, yeah. But we kind of run differently than a lot of other nonprofits. So we don't have one executive director that in the way that many nonprofits do, because of our shared values of equity and democracy. We instead use a shared leadership model. So one example of this is that the shared leadership committee will have one separate sort of executive meeting, but it's not there's one overarching individual making large decisions for the organization. And it also means that a few of our board members who are on the shared leadership committee, they actually take turns chairing board meetings, and there are multiple people who have the opportunity to lead.
Mm-hmm. So being able to facilitate our shared leadership meetings as well as our board meetings. So that's the way we structure it. So for example, I'm on the continuing conversations committee and education. And last month, or when we had our last shared leadership meeting, I was able to facilitate that meeting. So if I facilitate the shared leadership, and then I'll do our board meeting, the following Monday. But it's an opportunity, as Soorya was saying, to spread out the equity. So somebody else like Shelly or Wilma or someone else, Linda, will Linda takes the notes, though. she won't do the
somebody always has to do that.
Somebody has to do all the notes, so she'll do the notes. But or Caroline, but somebody else will have an opportunity to facilitate the meetings so that we can kind of spread it around. So I kind of like that. Initially I was kind of confused, but I really like that model of committee work.
Well, it gives everybody a chance to be very, very involved.
It does. It gives everyone a chance to be very involved and just spread the workload.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, also means if one person's missing, that's okay. Because it's not, in many organizations, a key person, so to speak, they don't show up and everybody's like, oh, wait a minute.
What's going to happen, right?
And I would say that if there's one person where if they're not there, the whole thing falls apart, then that's not really democratic. That's more of like a dictatorship almost.
You're right.
So let me just beat the drum a little bit more on how do I support Not in Our Town? No, I actually know the answer to that, but I'm asking you guys because I want everybody listening to us to make sure that they understand.
I have another idea of what we can say to that. So,
okay.
One thing you can do is you can join our Truth and Transformation initiative, which is an initiative where members work with community partners to acknowledge the truth that white supremacy is present locally, and then we work to transform our community and its institutions to become more equitable. And a current effort, which our mayor here knows about, is that the group is currently working on getting council to pass a resolution in support of this one bill that would require New Jersey to form a task force to study reparations for African Americans and how that would look in our state. So we're looking for Princeton to join many other municipalities to put pressure on the state to commit to reparations and to prioritize equity in this manner.
Right, and on that, I think actually County Commissioner Sam Frisbee, I think will be reaching out to the council so he can be part of the presentation on that to help explain to the council everything involved in that. Fantastic. And ask for our support. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw a plug in there for Sam, who's always very active and very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very.
And another thing you can do is you can attend continuing conversations, Unity Awards, and other Not in Our Town events.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely Truth and Transformation. It's an opportunity for us to look at ourselves to begin with. Through our readings and through our studying and our conversations, because race and racism and white supremacy are so intertwined in our entire nation, and it's really like almost unraveling, a quilt. So in one part, we really have to begin to look at ourselves. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. They say, well, I live in this wonderful community of Princeton and it's liberal, and what are the problems? But then if you stop and think, we do have problems here. There's a lot of inequity, and we've got to figure out why. What happened?
Yeah, and I would encourage people to not be intimidated to actually come to the Monday evening sessions, because I've been to I haven't been in a while because I have a conflict on Monday nights now, but I had been to a number of them, and people might think, gee, this is going to be really uncomfortable and everything. I don't think it's uncomfortable.
It's really
I think
not.
It's just, if you're okay having an open, honest discussion with people on any topic, then you're going to fit right in.
And there's so rarely a conflict, whenever, all of our facilitators for breakout rooms, for example, do such a great job. And, if somebody is having a hard time validating that person's emotions and things like that, instead of, accusing them of anything, it's a really great environment. And ever since I've been in Not in Our Town, I felt so welcome. And I'm sure anybody who attends our continuing conversations will feel the same. And if they don't, we'd certainly like their feedback.
Right. Safety. Absolutely. We have a community agreements, and we really stress that. And we don't want anyone to feel unwelcomed and not safe. No matter what your views are, we try to honor them all. And so safety is really important for us And we encourage people to come and really speak from their hearts and speak from their own experiences, because we all have them.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we listen to other people's experiences and can actually say, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should look at my world a little differently.
Exactly.
So what I experience is different than what each of you experience. But if we talk enough to each other, then I can hopefully understand what your experiences are. You can understand what mine are. And it just makes the whole dialogue and talking to each other that much easier.
Yeah.
Amen.
Right. Which is, which is what you're all about.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, as we start to wind down here, were there other questions I should have asked you that I haven't, or were there other great points you were hoping to make today that I didn't give you an opportunity to yet? I know I went through my list of prepared questions. But
Thank you. I know, I'm thinking about our new website. It's really cool.
Yeah, seriously. They're doing such a great job.
Oh my God, they did. Yeah, thank you, Shelley.
Yeah.
All right, for finding a web designer and all that other technical stuff. But it's easy to read. It's clean. It's neat. It's fantastic. So I strongly recommend everyone to hit up niotprinceton.org and check us out. It's worth a little journey.
So we want people to hit the website, and we want them to understand that the next event is Tuesday, September 6th.
Yes.
At 7 p.m.?
Yes, and that's going to be online with Dr. Natalie Edmonds. And it's about being a racial being. I think so.
Yeah, she's so cool.
And she's a fantastic presenter.
Good. Something to look forward to.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you both very much. I appreciate you being here and sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for our 24th episode of the Princeton Podcast, produced as a community service by HG Media, providing audio, video, and website design services here in Princeton since 1999. For more information on this episode, visit our website, princetonpodcast.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.